Hey, thanks you guys for coming tonight. I know you have lots of things you could be doing tonight probably, and I could be too, but the fact is that there are a lot of people who are suffering with this stuff, and we believe we have some answers that can help them. And so that's why we're here tonight, right? Either you or someone you love may be suffering from irritable bowel syndrome, maybe Crohn's disease. You know, there's this whole umbrella of irritable bowel disease, okay, celiac disease. And I'm going to be honest with you tonight, I'm not going to just talk specifically about each one of these, because I think what you're going to find over the course of tonight is that there is a relationship between all of them. And I'm going to try in the next 3 to 4 hours to paint this picture for you. No, really, it's not going to be 3 to 4 hours. Okay, but for maybe, you know, until about 7 o'clock, that's my goal, is to put the pieces together so that you can understand, okay, what is it going to take to unlock this disease, okay, this process, and not just how to treat it, but actually how to be healed from it, okay? Because treatment is a whole different ballgame. Treatment implies that, in most people's minds anyway, that I'm going to take a drug or I'm going to take a supplement and my symptoms are going to be better. No, I'm talking about the potential to have complete healing of that organ. But I want to say this, and I want this to be very clear. Me, no other doctor in the world, none of us ever healed anybody of anything, okay? It is really the power of healing that's inside of you, all right? And that is what heals people. The problem is that if you have anything that's interfering with that healing potential, there's no way you're going to get better. That's what tonight's about, okay? So sit back with us for the next hour or so. And the other thing, too, I want to point out is that I have you with those forms for a reason. Because you're going to be going through this. A workshop implies there's some kind of interaction, right? And I believe strongly that people learn visually, they listen, and they write, and that's a better way to learn, okay? So my name is Dr. Rob Lindsay. Just a little bit about myself. I'm a chiropractor. I'm a board-certified chiropractic physician, and I also have a master's degree in sports medicine. Really, the only reason I highlight that so much is that I've been on both sides of the healthcare spectrum. Okay, I've worked with orthopedic surgeons, physical therapists, hand therapists, emergency medicine doctors when I dealt with athletic injuries. Okay, so I know how they operate, and I used to be the guy that said, "Don't go see a chiropractor." I seriously did, because I told people that they were quacks, they're unscientific, they're not real doctors, all this stuff, and the reason. That's what they told me. That's what the PTs, the orthopedics, these other guys said. I won't go into the whole reason, but my life changed in the course of one lunch period. And in that time period, I learned something about this body. And I said it already. I said, look, the body heals itself as long as there's no interference. I went home that night. I said, honey, I'm going to chiropractic school. And she thought I was crazy. I'd never even been adjusted before. So, long story short, I've been on both sides of the equation. Now, since I've graduated, and I've literally hundreds of hours of post-chiropractic school education in functional medicine, functional neurology, okay? And what does functional mean? It means proper function, all right? It means how do we figure out how this body is supposed to work and move, decrease the stress on that so it functions normally. And I have the blessing to be able to consult with a lot of different doctors around the country via seminars and a message board. And the beauty behind that is that if I don't know, I can post it on a message board, and somebody there who's had 30 or 40 years of practice can help me. So I feel like I've got access to the best and brightest minds at my fingertips like that. It's unbelievable, really. It's rare in this day and age. Okay, I want you to write this down. Okay, there should be a part of your paperwork, there's a little bit of blank in there. And on the page that says what is wellness and that whole deal, there should be, if you turn it over, so you can write lifechangingcare.com. Why? Because if you go to this website, you're going to find hundreds of testimonials, okay? Not just about irritable bowel, but about all kinds of different health challenges that that people had amazing results by doing the kind of stuff we do here, okay? And that's why I put that. And what I want you to know is that when the attitude is right, okay, the facts don't matter. your attitude is huge. And many of you who have been suffering for a long time, or if you know somebody who's been suffering, you've been told, live with it. Or you've been told, I can't do anything else for you. Or you have to take this drug. Or I've got to remove the last third of your colon. Okay? That happens. I have people who come to me who have a colostomy bag because they have lost most of their intestine due to a surgery. Okay? And the thing is that with lifechangingcare.com, you go there, and when your attitude is right, the facts really don't matter. Because the fact is that you may have been told that by a doctor, you cannot get better. That's really an opinion. Okay? That's not a fact, because we see it happen all the time. And I love this verse. Okay? This is right out of the New Testament. And Apostle Paul said, whatever is true and noble, and whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely or admirable, whatever is, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. All right? Because when the attitude is right, the facts don't matter. The fact is that you or whoever you're here representing can literally get well. My number one goal here for you tonight, and you can write this down, okay, it really is to reinvent your life. And that sounds maybe lofty, but that is my number one goal. How do we reinvent a person's life? By helping them to understand, first of all, and why you're here, give them the information that is true, and then help them to take action. And the issue really is this, that you're here and you're on a crossroads, okay? And we all are. Every single day we've got a choice. Right now we can go this way or we can go this way. Now, for some of you who maybe have this or some other health challenge, or multiple health challenges, because that's usually what happens. You've got fibromyalgia on top of irritable bowel syndrome, okay? Is that you've got a compass, and unfortunately, it's pointing the wrong direction, okay? And the wrong direction is drugs and surgery. Please hear me, okay? There is a time and a place. Absolutely, there's a time and a place for drugs. There's a time and a place for surgery. But no drug has ever healed anybody of anything. Never. They don't do that. Drugs cover symptoms. Drugs are like when you cut your finger and you put a Band-Aid over it. What healed your cut? Was it the Band-Aid? Yourself, right. God-given healing ability. That's what heals you. Okay, no Band-Aid ever healed anybody. Okay, it's the same way with a supplement. I could throw a great herb at you. The herb is not going to heal you, but the herb may take some, it may help that organ by giving it a nutrient that it needs to remove some interference so that that God-given potential can work. Does that make sense? It's a whole different way of thinking. It's a whole different paradigm. Now, with that said, let's look at the average life expectancy of an American. Okay, in America, we live about 78 years. Okay, so on your piece of paper, write this down. Okay. Okay, so we're born, and then if we do like everybody else, we've got about 78 years, right on the earth. And we figured this out. Okay, we took and we multiplied that by the number of weeks, and we found out that that's about 4,056 weeks. And I don't know, frankly, when I first saw it, I thought, that's a lot. When you start to break it down, you go, wow, that maybe isn't that many. Now, the deal is this. What happens tonight, from this point on, literally is going to help to determine which way you go. So are you going backwards then? Are you going to have less life? Okay, you may live longer, but that's not. You may not really living. There's a difference between a long life and living, or it's going to determine if you are going to soar. Okay, so you have decisions tonight, right? And we'll keep going through, and hope you'll understand this. Now, I forgot my calculator, and I had one, and but I like to do this little. How many weeks do you have left? It's kind of interesting, you know, to think about it. And so, for me, I'm 44, okay, so that gives me about 34 years, again, if I do like everybody else. And if I live another 34 years, it's something like 1,700 weeks left. That puts a little more perspective on it, doesn't it? Like, wow. Now that's if I just continue to kind of, you know, eat like most people do, exercise like most people do, which is none at all, you know, these kinds of things. And the question is really is, you know, how many weeks do you have left full of life? You ever thought that? Ever wondered? My grandpa, okay, well, gosh, my grandma, my mom's mom, died at age 42 from breast cancer. Now, I fully believe, I was only 7 or something at the time, but knowing what I know now, it wasn't the breast cancer that killed her, okay? She had massive drugs pumped into her body, and it wiped her immune system out. She's not with us. I didn't hardly get to know her. But my grandpa, I don't even know how. He lived to be in his mid-70s, but guess what? The last 25 years of his life, diabetes, peripheral neuropathy, couldn't feel his feet, dementia. I mean, it's just, the list goes on and on and on. This didn't happen overnight, folks. That happens over a period of time with bad choice after bad choice. So, I'm here to put a little perspective on things, okay? Now, the cool thing is that you have a choice. We all do right now. We have a choice what it's going to be like going forward, right? So my next goal for all of you is to have maximum positive impact on everybody that I can, okay? Everybody that we come in contact with. That's why we do these seminars. I don't do it because I enjoy it that much or that I love it, okay? But it comes down to, now is the time to make a difference. In America, do you know that out of the top 50 unhealthiest populations, industrialized nations in the world, at least some of the latest stats I've seen, we were number 48. How can that be true when we have the best so-called healthcare doctors in the world, the best hospitals, the most technology, the best research? How can that be true? It doesn't make any sense to me. So we've got to try to figure out, there's something else that's missing, I would submit, okay? Number 3, third goal, and it is to provide you with an exit strategy, right? An exit strategy from a life of pain, whether it's in your bowel or it's chronic all over your body, suffering, and other health problems. Okay, this is really what we can do here. Take you from an old life to a new life. But here's the kicker. You have to be willing to make lifestyle change. And this, unfortunately, I hear all the time. People come in. They come in and they get a free consultation. They get a free report of findings. I give them 2 hours of my time. And I sit down and I say, okay, here's what you got. Here's what we can do to help you. Oh, doc. I don't know, man. I don't think I can give up that. I can't stop eating sugar. I just know I can't. Okay? Okay, I can't help you then. Does that make sense? You have to be willing. And so the kind of programs that we do here, if you are not willing to make a lifestyle change, forget it. I hate to be blunt, but that's the way it is. You make a lifestyle change on the path that we put you on, and guess what? Amazing things happen in a short period of time. Okay, now we're going to jump into kind of the nuts and bolts. That's the intro, right? That lasted a long time. But here's the deal, nuts and bolts. I can guarantee you here that none of you suffer from just irritable bowel syndrome or Crohn's disease or you name it. Whatever interested you about coming in about gut health. You do not just suffer from that. It is a physiologic impossibility. Can't happen. Impossible. So when I say that, and you go to a doctor, I don't care who it is, and they say, well, you've got irritable bowel syndrome. So then there are drugs that have been paired up via the physician's desk reference with a diagnosis, and those drugs are paired together, right? So they're going to tell you that here, this is for your irritable bowel. I am going to absolutely prove it to you tonight that that cannot happen. You just cannot have that alone. You actually suffer from what I call a web of physiologic dysfunction. Okay? And this is what it looks like. And it gets pretty complex, right? Because what you're dealing with here is thyroid issues. You're dealing with hormone imbalances, liver, immune system imbalances, emotion things like mind-body problems. I mean, this goes on. And at first you can look at this and go, oh my goodness, how do I even start if that's all happening? We're going to make it easy for you, okay? Easier. So you do not, it's impossible, okay? Just keep that in mind. You don't just suffer from that disease. Now, what I want you to do next is I want you to turn over. There's a page in there called a neurologic assessment form. All right? And you should also have a sheet that has some circles on it called a web of physiologic dysfunction. Does everybody see that there? Does everybody have those sheets? Okay, great. So on the neurologic assessment form, what I want you to do is I want you to look at if you did it, the yeses and the nos, and I want you to count up the number of yeses that you have there. Okay, and then just take a moment, count the number of yeses, and then put those just put your number at the top of the page. Okay. Now here's what's important to know about this page. Okay. If you circled more than 5 yeses on that sheet, then you have a brain-based problem, in part. Okay? You have a neurologic problem, and I'll link it in a moment, but you have a brain-based problem. So, and what this sheet does is it helps us to see, well, what kind of brain-based problem do you have? What I mean by that is it in the frontal lobe of the brain? Okay? Is it in the parietal lobe or the temporal lobe? And it makes a difference because we work with people who need neurologic help in addition to metabolic help. Metabolic talks about your organs and stuff. But one thing we've learned is that if you have a colon problem or any other digestive issue, and you have a brain problem that's not addressed, forget it. Forget it. Okay? So, as I said, you don't just suffer from IBS, or you name the condition, okay? But you also have a brain-based problem that's in there. And we can absolutely link these together. The question is this. In order for you to maximize your gut health, okay, and get you better, we have to fix your brain. We have to. And the next, and what I want to talk about here is some of the different parts of the brain and what that might look like. So for example, if you said, gosh, I walk into a room and I can't remember why I walked in that room. I had a gal earlier today, and every single question that I brought up about this, that's me. I can't remember where I put my keys. I leave Walmart, and I can't remember where I parked my car. Okay? That's a temporal lobe problem. By the way, the temporal lobe is also the area in your brain that is controlling your short-term memory, but also your circadian rhythm, which is where your sleep cycles are. So for those of you who either can't fall asleep at night, or you wake up around 2 in the morning, okay, guess what? That's your adrenal and your hippocampus firing off. It's not supposed to happen. We should be able to sleep through the night. Either that, or you wake up really tired even though you had 8 hours of sleep. You're like, I cannot get any energy. Okay? What about this? Your spouse or loved one, you're thinking to yourself, man, that guy is just not the same guy I married 20 years ago. Okay? Because that person has had a personality change. That's a frontal lobe problem. You feel things that you shouldn't feel, like pain all over your body. Okay? Or maybe you have a lot of just digestive pain. Or you've got just joint pain, right? Or you feel like you've got ants crawling on your legs. Or you've got, your legs feel like they're restless all the time, okay? That's a parietal lobe issue. So we've got to figure out what kind of brain-based problem you have in order to fix it. Make sense? Okay. So far, we know there's a link between the colon, or I should say the irritable bowel syndrome, and brain. All right. Now, let's continue on. Now, what I want you to do with that web of physiologic dysfunction sheet, I want you to write this stuff in there. Remember, this is interactive. So in the middle, you can put IBS, okay? Or you name, if you have celiac disease, if you have Crohn's disease, write it in there. And then in the upper right, drop right brain, and then connect it, okay? Absolutely a link. Then in the next column, you can write in colon. So you're going to now put away the neurologic assessment form. We don't need that anymore right now. And you're going to pull out the sheet that says metabolic assessment form. It's another form where you circled a bunch of things on there. And we're going to look at category 1. category 1 has to do with the colon. Okay? So, if you circled any 1s, 2s, or 3s in category 1, then you have a colon problem. Colon is also known as the large intestine. Okay? Now, we can link that to irritable bowel, of course, that goes without saying, but we can also link that to the brain. Now, what's so important about the colon? Well, this is where most of your water gets reabsorbed into your bloodstream. Okay? So, probably 80 to 90% of the people that I see in my office are dehydrated. Okay? They're not sucking water back out properly. They're probably not drinking enough in the first place. But you've got big problems if you're dehydrated, because every cell, tissue, organ, gland system in your body needs proper hydration. Otherwise, you're going to be struggling. Okay, you're going to be struggling big time. Okay, so that's the colon. How many doctors have you been to who have addressed your brain problem and your colon problem? Anybody?
None.
Okay. People never say me because it hasn't happened. Okay.
2 of the best doctors in the Twin Cities. Colon.
Okay. How about this now? If you have IBS that's being caused by a brain problem and a colon problem, what do you think your results are going to be if those aren't addressed? Good? Bad? Indifferent? Self-evident, right? Self-evident. If you've got a brain problem and a colon problem that aren't addressed, you will never get better, short of a miracle from God, which happened. Okay, let's go on to category 2 and category 3. All right, category 2 and category 3 both have to do with the stomach. Now, if you've circled 1s, 2s, or 3s in category 2, that's a certain kind of stomach problem. Almost always that goes with low stomach acid. Now, here's what's critical to know about that. The low stomach acid is that if you cannot break down your food in your stomach, which then puts it into the small intestine, you are not going to be able to absorb your nutrients. And my goodness, if you could have the best diet in the world and still not get the nutrients out of it. This is another thing I see. People come in, they say, Doc, I've got this pure diet. I've been eating vegetables, good meats, and then I look at their blood work. Their blood work comes back, and they've got something called total protein. And it's either through the roof or it's too low. And I look at something called globulin. And it's either through the roof or it's too low. And when those are off, that is a hallmark for low hydrochloric acid in the stomach. So the symptoms of that are often a person who's got excessive belching or burping or bloating. They feel full after a meal. They feel heartburn after the meal. And they're told that they have acid reflux or GERD. And they're given Prilosec or Prevacid or one of those other antacid drugs, right? Which, by the way, is the exact opposite thing you should do. Because I just told you that you've got low stomach acid. Why would I give you a pill to decrease your stomach acid even more if you've already got low acid? Does that make any sense at all? To me, it doesn't. Okay? Because that's what happens when you base everything on a symptom. Okay? All right. So the second, category 3 has to do with another stomach problem. And there are folks that are in this room who may have both. 2 different kinds of stomach problems. They need different kinds of management. But bottom line is, that's where all your digestion starts. Okay? Now, let's go on to category 4. Category 4 has to do with the small intestine. Again, if you circle 1s, 2s, or 3s in this category, then you've got a small intestine problem in addition to a colon, a stomach, and a brain problem. Now, here's what is so amazing about the small intestine. This is where 90% of your food is broken down and assimilated. Okay? This is where you're supposed to absorb those nutrients. And remember that food is your fuel source. So, if you're not getting the food you're eating into your bloodstream, which carries it around to the cells, how can you ever expect to get anything better? It's going to be hard, right? It's going to be hard. Now we can go on to the next one. Next one is category 5. Category 5 has to do with the gallbladder. All right? if you circled 1s, 2s, or 3s in this column, then you have some measure of a gallbladder dysfunction. Now this is really important because the gallbladder essentially is where you squirt something called bile into your small intestine, which helps you to emulsify or break down fats. So, if you have trouble digesting fatty food, or you take a fish oil supplement because you heard that's good for you, and all day long you're burping up fish, and you can't understand why, you're not breaking down fats. That's a gallbladder issue. By the way, vitamin A, D, E, and K, which are all essential nutrients, are fat soluble, which means that you have to be able to break them down somehow. Well, if you can't break them down, how are you going to be able to absorb them? You could be taking a great vitamin D supplement and not actually assimilating it into your body. Okay? Are you all with me so far? Okay, now what we can do here is we can take these 4 right here, and you can draw kind of a kidney bean shaped thing around that. And we can link that together into one organ system that we call the gut. And I'm going to spend some time on this here, okay? Because this is where it all starts. Probably 90% of the people that I see that come in here who have a chronic disease, you name it, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, they've got migraine headaches, you name it, they've got a gut problem. The gut is where, any guesses on how much the immune system is in the gut? Any guesses? 80%. Very good. Very good. Okay, did you know that, or was that a wild guess?
Wild guess.
Yeah. Okay, 80% of the immune system. So, pretty important, right? If your gut's not functioning properly, can you see how you might be getting kind of frequent colds and flus? All right, you know anybody who does that? Man, doc, I can't figure it out. Every year I get sick, and this year it's been worse. I've been sick 6 times in the last 6 months. I can't seem to knock this cough off. Okay, I can't seem to get rid of it. I take echinacea like nobody's business. I'm always sick. Okay, immune system. How about this? What percentage of serotonin, which is a neurotransmitter in your brain, which helps you feel good about yourself, any ideas how much is made there in the gut?
80% or 70%.
Okay, good, pretty good guess. It's actually 90%. Okay, so this is a neurotransmitter that we find in the brain for which when you have depression, they often give you a drug called an SSRI drug. Have you heard of that? It's called a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. That does nothing to affect the serotonin production in your body. It just helps the serotonin that's in your brain to stay there longer. Okay? It's not a long-term fix. This is what we call the gut-brain connection. And I'm going to take a moment here and I'm going to show you a video about this. Okay, it's about 3 minutes long.
The complexity and stresses of modern life and the demands they place on the human body pose enormous new challenges to the immune system. As a result, there has been a significant increase in autoimmunity and other immune dysfunctions, which were not seen just a few decades ago. The interplay between genes and environmental factors, such as toxins, infections, and undigested proteins and peptides, is primarily responsible for the development of immune dysfunctions. Cyrix Labs is an innovative force addressing the depth and magnitude of these immune dysfunctions at early stages, when intervention increases the chance for success. Research confirms that many immune dysfunctions originate in the gastrointestinal tract. GI tract abnormality resulting in a compromised gut barrier allows for the increased entry of undigested food and other large molecule antigens into the intestinal submucosa and the circulation. Reaction to these antigens activates immune and inflammatory cascades, resulting in the production of pro-inflammatory cytokines and antibodies, which further increases intestinal barrier permeability, or leaky gut syndrome. In many cases, these cytokines and antibodies can also attack certain tissues, leading to autoimmunity, the number 3 cause of morbidity and mortality in the industrialized world today. Measuring certain antibodies, known as predictive antibodies, can help doctors arrest the autoimmune process by identifying and removing dietary and environmental triggers and reestablishing intestinal barrier function. If intestinal barrier dysfunction goes unaddressed, the inflammatory cytokines and antibodies can also disrupt the integrity of the blood-brain barrier and allow repeated exposure of autoreactive lymphocytes and other factors to the nervous system, which may result in neuroautoimmunity and neurodegenerative disorders. Thus, abnormal mucosal immune function and a compromised gut barrier are the gateways to inflammation and many autoimmune and neurodegenerative diseases. Cyrix Labs' advanced technologies supply the tools necessary to address the complex immune disorders faced today. The scientifically designed test arrays, available exclusively at Cyrix Labs, help doctors and health practitioners in their assessment of various disorders, as well as in the identification of disease triggers. Cyrix Labs, your empowering partner in advanced functional immunology. Cyrix Labs, where innovation happens.
So, I wasn't doing that to highlight Cyrix Labs, okay? I was doing that just to show you a quick video about how critical this is, this gut-brain connection. And this is one of the things that we see, that I see over and over and over in folks who have irritable bowel syndrome, okay, or irritable bowel disease, is that they've actually developed something called leaky gut syndrome, okay? And the thing is that if you've got a bad gut, you have a bad brain. And that may seem bold, but we find this all the time, and this is one of the primary reasons that a person has a decrease in brain function. And we do a lot of neurologic exams here. We do a lot of testing that looks at eye motions and other things to test the cerebellum and the frontal lobe of the brain. And we also do some testing using some various supplements to see, hey, is this supplement crossing the blood-brain barrier? And we find all the time that people, in fact, do have this gut problem. They may not even have any symptoms of it, okay, but they have a decreasing brain function. Their balance and coordination are thrown off. They can't think clearly. They've got attention deficit problems. They can't focus. Their short-term memory is going. Okay, this is the progression that occurs when a gut is left unfixed, continuing down that road. So how well is your gut and body going to heal when 80% of your immune system is there in the gut, and you've got a gut that's not working properly? It's just not, right? You just can't. So I'm going to beat this dead horse, because no matter what you do, if this irritable bowel, if the leaky gut is not addressed and that inflammatory cascade is not calmed down, it's going to go on and on and on, and it's going to lead to secondary autoimmune diseases. Now, in the video, they talked about that. They talked about autoimmune diseases. Okay, Crohn's disease is considered an autoimmune disease. Your immune system is literally attacking your own tissue. The chances of a person developing a secondary or even a third autoimmune disease within 5 years is extremely high. So you got to do things to calm down that inflammation, to calm down that attack that's happening there. Now, so we just showed you that little video on leaky gut syndrome. Now, Cyrix Labs is one of the world's best labs. I don't have any stake in Cyrix Labs, but we use them because they run one of the best tests in the world called their Array number 2, which is an intestinal permeability screen. And it is so helpful for us to see, okay, how damaged, how bad is this gut? And it gives us insights into what might be the culprit. For example, some of the most common culprits of leaky gut syndrome are undigested food particles. Why? You didn't have enough stomach acid to break it down, and you've got these proteins that are large. And some of these proteins, particularly from gluten, from dairy, from corn, from rice, from other gluten grains besides wheat, okay, when you eat it, and it goes into your gut, in many cases, the immune system sees it as a foreign invader. It literally begins to attack it as if it was a bacteria or a virus. So that's one cause. The second cause of this immune challenge is some kind of a critter, okay, some gut bug. So I mentioned gluten, okay? Cyrex also has another couple of arrays that we often use. Again, I'm highlighting this to tell you that in order to figure this out, to know if you have leaky gut, you've got to do the testing, right? You got to have proper testing, because we can't guess with this. This is life and death. The proper testing is this: Cyrex array 2 tell us if you have a leaky gut and what part of it is leaking. Okay. Cyrex array 3 and 4. Cyrex 3 looks at wheat and gluten. Now here's one of the kickers. Many of you may have actually been tested by your MD, and they probably ran a serum or a blood IgG or maybe IgA gliadin is what it's called. That's kind of the fancy name for gluten. And it comes back negative. And they say, you're fine. You're fine, you can eat wheat. Well, guess what? Cyrex Labs has found that you have to measure 13 or 14 different parameters in order to fully know if that person has a gluten or wheat issue. What I mean by that is this. Take a Chinese letter. You know how Chinese letters have like a lot of lines to them? Okay, I don't speak Chinese, but you know how they have like lots of lines? So imagine that each one of those lines is something we call a proteome. Okay? It's like a piece of the letter. You may only react to one of the maybe 10 different proteomes that are there. And you may not react to the whole molecule. Isn't that interesting? So some folks, their test will come back and wheat looks fine, but omega gliadin isn't. And what I mean by that is that if omega gliadin is positive, that means you've created antibodies. That means your immune system is attacking it as a foreign invader. It means you can't eat it, because every time you eat it, it's causing an immune reaction in your body. So it goes it's a little more complex than just that little test. That's where that Cyrex 3 is great. Now Cyrex array 4 is amazing because it looks at the most common foods that cross-react with gluten. So, look, we've all heard wheat's not that great for us. Okay, well, what about quinoa? Have you heard of quinoa? Right? And then we've all been told quinoa is great. You can have quinoa. Guess what? Quinoa cross-reacts with gluten in some people. So does rice. So does corn. So do white potatoes, eggs, soy, dairy. And then there are other grains that are not gluten grains, but they can cross-react too, like buckwheat and tapioca. So tapioca is in everything you eat. So it starts to get a little mind-boggling, but the key is if you've got proper testing, then you know, hey, this is what my diet's going to be like going forward in life. It helps you to weed that stuff out. Does that make sense? So you got to get it tested. What about, as I mentioned, gut infections? Okay, we run a stool test often, and we often find parasites. We often find bacterial infections, in particular something called H. pylori, which is a really nasty bacteria. You don't have to have any symptoms of bacterial infection, but it lodges in the cells of your digestive system, and it wreaks havoc. And we find it all the time in people. By the way, chronic bacterial infection depletes the stomach of acid. So you start to see this web coming together. So that's the stool test. Now, let's keep going now on our sheet. Okay, go back to our sheet. Look at category 6 and category 7. These have to do with blood sugar. You can write that on your web of physiologic dysfunction, blood sugar. Now, if you circled 1s, 2s, or 3s in this area, then you've got a blood sugar control issue. And this is the #1 stressor in the body. When we run blood work on people, optimal blood sugar should be between 85 and 99. That's fasting, okay? And we often find people either too high, which means insulin resistance, or we find them too low, which means hypoglycemia. Either way, blood sugar is the #1 stressor on the body. And when blood sugar is left unchecked, coursing through your system, it's pro-inflammatory. It causes inflammation in your cardiovascular system and in your brain. Maybe you're somebody who's doing up and down. Maybe you're both. Maybe you get irritable or lightheaded if you miss a meal, and and you're fatigued after meals. Okay? That is what we call dysglycemia. And dysglycemia simply means your blood sugar is so out of control that you're swinging from up, down, your lows all throughout the day. Okay? This is really, really important. And if you take nothing else from tonight, something you can take away is that you must eat high-quality protein breakfast. You can't miss it. And you cannot miss a meal, and you have to get something in your system every 2 to 3 hours. If you don't do that, you're going to have and you have a blood sugar problem right now, it's going to be really hard to fix you no matter what you're dealing with. Okay? How do we figure that out? Proper testing. How? Well, we do a blood test. The blood test that looks at things like your fasting glucose and your LDH, your HbA1c. Now, I'm going to give you a little tip here. When you go to your typical doctor, okay, and you have lab work done, and they may run the same lab work that I would run, but what they're going to do is they're going to look at the reference interval, the reference range on that lab. The reference range on that lab is based on every person who's come into that lab over the last 12 months. So they're comparing you to all the sick people that have come in. And they make a very broad range, okay? It's kind of like a bell curve. What we use is what's called a functional range. That means the ideal healthy range, the range at which you should function properly. There's a big difference. The ideal range for glucose is 85 to 99. The laboratory range goes from 65 to 99 or 100. So what happens if your blood glucose shows up at 75 in your doctor's office? Are they going to flag it? No. Matter of fact, they're going to say, everything looks great. Why? How do I know that? Because people come in here every single day with their lab work and they said, Doc, I was told that it's in my head or to take Zoloft. It's in your head, here's a pill, or everything's fine. I don't know why you're suffering so bad. Okay, I'm not joking, this is what we hear. It's because you have to look at things functionally from a different range. Okay, let's now look down at category 8 and category 9. Category 8 and 9 have to do with the adrenal glands. Now, the adrenal glands, what's so important about the adrenals? Okay, they're little glands, they sit on top of your kidneys, but they're powerhouses because they release all of your stress hormones. Okay? They also are responsible for making the precursors for your female and male hormones. So if you have got hormone problems like estrogen issues, progesterone issues, low testosterone is really common in guys, it could be from an adrenal problem. Now, adrenal glands and blood sugar go hand in hand. When your blood sugar is off and is fluctuating, your adrenal glands absolutely will be off. They just can't work right. And as I said earlier, they are part of your circadian rhythm. They're part of that part of your brain, the hippocampus, that controls sleep. So a couple things to highlight on this. There's two main hormones that I want you to highlight and write down here. Number one is cortisol. Number two is epinephrine. Okay? Write those in there. Have you heard of those? Okay, good. Here's what's so important about cortisol. God gave us cortisol to be able to survive short-term stressors. Okay? If I'm walking along and I step off a curb and there's a bus coming, I need cortisol in my system right now in order to jump back, okay, before I get plowed over. Okay? Cortisol gets dumped into your system immediately, like that, and it causes your blood pressure to go up. It causes your heart rate to go up. It causes you to take shunt all of the blood from your digestive system to your muscles. Do you need to be digesting food when you're trying to get out of the way of a bus? No. What do you need to do? Move fast, jump. You need blood in your muscles. Cortisol does that. Now, great for short-term survival, not so good left chronic. Over and over and over. And what does it do? It happens to affect, there are a whole bunch of receptors in the brain, and cortisol is toxic to the brain. It actually accelerates neurodegeneration. You know what that's about? Neurodegeneration? What does that become? Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's. Okay? It affects the part of the brain called the hippocampus, which we mentioned, which is short-term memory. So these folks who have dementia, in many cases, they've just had tons and tons of stress. And when I say stress, I mean physical, I mean chemical, and I mean emotional stress that you are unable to adapt to. So that's not bad enough. You've got epinephrine released, and what epinephrine does is it bathes pain fibers. All right? So if I take that electrical cord right there, and I take some sandpaper, and I just go like this on that electrical cord over and over and over and over, eventually what's going to happen? It's going to get worn down, right? It's going to irritate that cord. Now, do the same thing with your nerves. Okay, nerves, there are pain-sensing nerves. So if you chronically release epinephrine, and it is just like a blowtorch or a piece of sandpaper, can you see how you might have chronic pain? These are people who have fibromyalgia, by the way. Okay? Their body hurts everywhere. Why? Because the midbrain is being inundated with epinephrine, cortisol. And where they feel the pain isn't because there's a problem there, which is why fibromyalgia treatment fails. Because they're not addressing the underlying issue, which is inflammation in the body. Does that make sense? What do you think is going to happen if you've got inflammation throughout your body and that's not addressed? You're just given tramadol for the pain. Okay, I have a woman who was in here today, fibromyalgia. She's trying to wean herself off of tramadol. Can't do it yet. Why? Because it hurts too much. What are we doing? We're working on deflaming her body. How do we do that? We take out every food that could be inflammatory for her system, and we actually give her things from the outside in that work to remove some of the barriers to gut healing. That's what we do. And we're working on brain-based therapies to stimulate and activate the parts of her brain that are deficient. It's going to take time. These things didn't happen overnight. It's not going to happen overnight to get well. How do we figure out about the adrenal glands? You have to do the proper testing to know that. We can't guess with this. It's life or death in some cases here. We do an adrenal salivary test. You spit into a tube 4 times in a day. We send it off to the lab. They tell us, well, how are you producing cortisol? Are you producing cortisol the right amounts at the right time? If not, you got a problem. Okay? You got a problem. It also measures something called SIGA, which is like the slime layer that covers your small intestine cells. We can see that that's been worn away on that lab due to chronic inflammation from poor eating, from emotional stress, because emotional stress also causes depletion of SIGA. It happens from gut critters. Okay? So, I painted this kind of big web picture here, right? And I'm trying to link this all together for you, just to remind you now. You don't just have IBS or Crohn's or celiac or whatever it is. It's about now finding out, okay, well, how do we unlock your health, right? Okay, so some of you, I gave you a lock, okay? There's a few of you that have a lock. What I want you to do is bring that thing out here, okay? And I want you just to lovingly look at it and fondle it and see if you can unlock it. What's the combo there? We would be here all night, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we would be here all night. Okay? We got to figure out the combo. That lock is like your life. We have to figure out the right combo. Now, your combo is going to be different from his, from hers. There is no cookbook or cookie cutter approach to getting well this way, which is what the physician's desk reference is, right? You have this symptom, I pair it with this drug. How is that ever going to work? I just don't understand it, folks. So, if we can unlock you, you can actually literally get your life back. How do we know? Go to lifechangingcare.com and you'll see, because that's how we know. So what I want you to do, first of all, is remember one, we talked about how you have a brain problem, right? And if you have a brain problem, brain-based problem, then go ahead and turn that number to number 4. Turn it there even if you don't particularly have a brain-based problem, but turn it to number 4, okay? First number, which would be the one on your left. Okay. Then if you have a gut problem, we're going to turn the second number to number 1. Now go ahead and try to open that lock. We've got the first 2. Can you open it? You're not even trying?
I did.
No, try it.
Open.
Ah, it didn't open. Okay. All right. So again, we'd be here all night till the cows come home. We don't have the whole picture yet, right? Okay. We need a couple. There's a couple more things we need to hit on here really quick, and then we'll finish her off. So turn back to your web of physiologic dysfunction. So here we go. You come in, you present, and you've got this digestive issue. Whatever you named it, whatever it was named. Okay. We realized that you've got a brain problem and you've got a gut problem. Okay. And you may have a blood sugar and adrenal gland problem. Now let's throw in there the thyroid gland. This is so important. Why is this important? Because the thyroid hormones are the ones that kickstart all of the metabolic processes in your cells. Every single cell in your whole body has receptors on the surface for thyroid hormone. You can't say that about your other hormones. That's what's unique about it. So it's responsible for every cell. So you find yourself maybe a little sluggish, a little tired, you're losing your hair, you're losing the outer third of your eyebrows. Maybe you're on this great exercise routine and you're also eating a low-calorie diet and you're still gaining weight. No matter what you do, I can't lose weight. You may actually have some of those symptoms, or you may have like inward trembling, or you may have heart palpitations during the day, or you're somebody who fluctuates between the symptoms I said first and the second set, which is hypoglycemia and hyper. You're going back, hyperthyroid and hypothyroid, back and forth. So there are receptors everywhere, and when I see people come in here and they have been diagnosed with hypothyroidism, the honest truth is that most of them, 90% in our country, are actually autoimmune. They have an autoimmune disease called Hashimoto's disease, and it's attacking, their immune system is actually attacking their thyroid gland. Well, if your gut has receptors for thyroid hormone, and your thyroid is under attack, and it can't control hormones properly, can you see how that might affect your gut? That could actually lead to irritable bowel syndrome in and of itself. How do we figure this out? Proper testing. The typical lab that's run, they run a TSH and a T4. That's it. And we get those, and their range is really broad, and they say you're fine. We run a whole bunch of other tests because we got to find out, well, what's happening with that thyroid? Okay? Is it truly hypo, or is it autoimmune? Because if it's autoimmune, it's a whole different ballgame. That means now it's an immune issue, not a thyroid issue. And everyone virtually that comes in that has been diagnosed with hypothyroidism is being managed with a replacement drug called Synthroid or levothyroxine, okay, something like that. That will never cure you or heal you if you have an immune challenge. Make sense? And that's the reality of it. So we've got the first 2 combinations, okay? We've got a brain issue. We've got a colon issue. We may have a stomach issue. We may, on top of it, have a small intestine issue. It's a ticking time bomb. It's just going off. You may have a gallbladder issue, and then on top of that, you may have an adrenal issue. Okay, these are the people who need coffee to get themselves going and all the way through their day. No matter what you do, you cannot unlock that because you have this web of physiologic dysfunction, right? It's a complete web. So what I want you to go ahead and do is turn the next one to 1, the third one to 1. Now what is 411? What does that mean? Anybody?
Question. Help or something.
Help? Information. Yeah. So 411 means information. So what we've been doing for the last hour, okay, is I've just been flooding you with information. A lot of it, right? Because I talk a lot. I know that. I'm trying to curb it, but it's hard. But here's the deal. You got all this information, and you could leave here and say, great, doc, thanks a lot. But the issue is this. Knowledge or information without action is useless. It's useless. So, again, you have a decision tonight. Just like earlier we talked about, okay, what am I going to do with this information? You got to do something. right? You got to do something. And this is what I hear over and over, is that, or this is what it's like, is that a person goes into a doctor, hold that for me, okay? Just hold it just like that. And he says, this is my life. Doc, unlock me, okay? Unlock me. And the doctor's got his physician's desk reference, okay? He may have some other tools, but that's really what he mostly has. And I'm going to tell you something here, that you cannot poison your way back to health, okay? You say, unlock me, and that's what he's done, okay? I realize that's a little bold, but that's exactly what's been happening with this. Let me see that. The other one, did I take it?
Yeah, it's on the other chairs.
It's still on there, sorry. Okay, you said unlock me, and they came at you with this, right? And now you're broken. This can't, in many cases, can't be fixed anymore if that's all you do. You can have that, okay? You can't poison yourself back to health. So you have two choices, okay, the way I see it. And you're here tonight for a reason, okay? That's the way God works. You're here tonight for a reason. You have two choices. Number one, you can be broken, okay, like that lock. That's your life. Or you can be unlocked. But in order to be unlocked, you have to know the right combination, okay? And knowledge and wisdom is not the same thing. Wisdom is the application of knowledge. So, with that said, okay, if you take all this and leave here and go, thanks, Doc, then all you have is knowledge. Wisdom is the application of knowledge. Wisdom is saying, okay, I have this, I'm going to do something with it for my health and for my life, right? What's the opposite of wisdom? It's foolishness. Okay? And I'm not here to call anybody a fool, but that's what it is. So, in order to unlock you, you have to take some action steps. Okay, you have to do something. The first action step is this. You've got to set an appointment. All right? Now, I don't even know if you're here for yourself or for somebody else, but you've got to set an appointment. You come in here, right? And here's the cool thing about it, is that we do a complete consultation, a neurologic evaluation, okay? And we'll give you a report of findings. Normally, that's 2 visits. It would cost $350, but we're doing it for free. We're doing it here because we want to serve you and see if we can help you. And at the end of that visit, if you don't like what you heard, then no questions asked, no hard feelings. But if there's something that comes out of that visit that makes you think, wow, I think I could get better here, then you've got to take action. Okay? That's number one. There's a second action step, is that before you even come into our office, then you would have to go to YouTube and type in our website, our Vallejo Health and Wellness Center, and you're just going to watch a video called What Makes Us Unique. We think it's important before you come in to understand, well, what makes us unique. You also have to go to our website and watch a video called What to Expect on Your First Visit. That way, you show up and you're ready. You're ready and raring to go. And the third action step is this. We can get that to you after if you need. Paperwork needs to be filled out before you come in. Why? Because it's very thorough. And if you come in and you end up going over from the time we're supposed to start, that makes me late, and it's not honoring to you. We want you to be prepared, so we ask you to fill out your paperwork before you come in the comfort of your home. You must bring a t-shirt and shorts, because I cannot do a thorough neurologic examination if you're in regular clothes. Okay, we've got to be able to get to all parts of your legs and your arms and everything. And the fourth action step is this. When you come in, you'll have to set a report of findings. Okay, that was that second visit I talked about, and it doesn't cost anything. And that is where I will sit down with you and tell you everything that we know. We'll tell you what, if you have labs, what the results are. We'll tell you what labs we may need to run. We'll tell you what I think it's going to take to fix you? How long? Okay, all of those questions. And you must bring a spouse or significant other. Why? It's going to be, would it be pretty hard, do you think, for you to go home and explain this tonight to your spouse? I think it would be. And you need somebody there that's going to help support you through your care. So we have 4 action steps. All right? Now take your lock and go ahead and turn the last number to 4. And it works every time.